friends, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me today for part 2 of my interview with Keith Giles about his new book, Sola Mysterium. I'll have part 1 linked in the description, and today we're going to continue discussing how to embrace uncertainty when it comes to our religious and or spiritual beliefs. Specifically in this part of the interview, I asked Keith to address both the Christian crowd and the New Age crowd, which are often sort of at each other's throats. And being somebody whose book is appealing to both of those crowds, I asked him, what would you say to each side and how can we come together and learn to be more accepting of one another? All of Keith's links will be in the description to his books, his podcasts, his upcoming class. Thank you so much for watching. Here's Keith. I have sort of a deep question for you.
Okay. Oh boy, here we go.
Okay, so we're talking about knowing God through experience, and a question that often comes up with this, of course, religious people will have a tendency to say, you can't trust your experience, you need to measure it by an objective truth. But as you bring out in your book, with several chapters talking about how scientifically we can't necessarily trust our experience of the world, our sight, our sound, the way we remember things, even our memories can be flawed. Is it even possible to know objective truth, or how can we even know that what we're experiencing is true?
Right. Well, on one level, what I'm saying in the book is that because that level of certainty is really it's kind of mushy, you know what I mean? It's not as hard and specific and exact as we want to think it is. That because of that, that's the reason why I think we should learn to just relax and hold loosely to our need, our desire certainty. Because even, again, like on a scientific level, I talk about this whole quantum level of things where, I mean, on the one hand, what quantum scientists are discovering is phenomenal. I mean, it's amazing that through quantum science, they're arriving now at some of the same conclusions that mystics from across, Native Americans, Buddhists, Hindus, Christians, Muslims have come to the same conclusions that quantum scientists are now realizing now from a scientific level are true. Like, so there's this amazing overlap of that. But at the same time, those same scientists who are discovering this idea that, oh my gosh, like everything's connected, this idea of separation is an illusion, that there are not separate things in the universe, that they appear that way, but really they are all expressions of the one sort of quantum field. There's one unified field, one quantum field, and everything in the universe, whether it's empty space, which is most of it, or things we perceive as being physical objects, regardless, the space or the object, they are all expressions of the same single quantum field, which is this level of connection and oneness that is mind-blowing, right? But again, even at that level, I'm careful. I want to be careful to say, because I think this is the way quantum scientists would also say it, even as they're expressing those kinds of amazing and astounding realizations through what they're discovering, even that is in flux. Even that is like, so like the way they would probably say it is, so far, the way this is what it looks to us. It appears this way, right? There's a quote in the book from a renowned scientist in the Nature journal, which is the premier scientific journal, and he published an article where he basically said that based on what they're discovering in quantum science, we can no longer think of the universe as a great machine, meaning it's just atoms and molecules and physical things. He says we can no longer think of the universe as a great machine, but rather we have to consider it and think of it as a great thought or consciousness, right? Which again, for a scientist, that's a pretty radical thing to be saying. But understand, even as we're saying that, even as he's saying that, even as I'm saying that, there's still a level of incredible mystery surrounding that. Like, so you could say, wow, it really looks this way, but the scientists still can't tell us how or why, just that, wow, it sure looks like that's what's happening. And there's still so much of it that we can't understand. And so in the same way that a quantum scientist would hold loosely to these phenomenal and astounding discoveries and findings that they're having. I think theologians who are, by the way, have the same observations, right? About from a religious or a spiritual perspective, we all should be holding loosely to those same things and saying, wow, there's a level of wonder and awe and mystery to these things that should take our breath away. It shouldn't take us to a place of, well, we've got it figured out and these are the answers, you know? So I think that answers your question. So in other words, it's about learning how to live more in that place of this sort of swirling uncertainty. I mean, some amazing things that you observe that you go, whoa, look at that. I see that. This seems to be suggesting this, and this seems to be suggesting that. And wow, isn't this cool? But all of that is still, I think, things that we hold loosely to, and it can inspire our curiosity, and it should get our wheels turning. We ourselves should start to say, wow, I wonder what that means, or what could that be about? That in itself, I believe, is one of the ways that we are engaging and experiencing God, because this is normal for God. This isn't surprising to God. It's just surprising to us as we're bumping into it and realizing some of these things, and even trying to make sense of it. That in itself is one of the ways where we are engaging with God, with the divine.
Yeah, that was really good. And a point that you bring out in your book, I think you actually have a chapter with this title, The Great I Am is a We. Is that how you phrased it?
Yeah,
Is in
is a
us.
we.
The great I am is in us. And so that what you're saying just brings this to mind, that our consciousness or our experience of reality itself is an experience of God. Maybe we all have this little piece to the puzzle that when we put it together, there's the whole experience, there's the whole thing.
Yes. Well, and that's such an amazing thing too, Melissa. Like I'm starting to, as I'm continuing to move, outward in my research and in my thinking, again, embracing quantum and all these other kind of things I talk about in the book. But at the same time, I've also been really fascinated. I'm looking now at the Gospel of Thomas and realizing that book is speaking about the same idea, honestly, the same kind of ideas that are in quantum and some other things too. The idea that this illusion of separation, that duality is not reality, but that we are all kind of one. All of us are connected, and that shift away, certainly from a Christian perspective, like in Christianity, you are taught that God is sort of up there and out there, external to you. And this idea that truth is external to us. And then that's why we have to find it, right? We have to search and dig and study and learn and try to, because truth and wisdom and the answers are out there somewhere, and God is out there away from us somewhere. But when you shift away from that and realize that's not true, that that all of that is in here, right? God is here. God is like, and again, there's so many scriptures from a Christian standpoint that I know a lot of Christians are like, oh, this sounds New Age. No, it sounds like Colossians and John and Philippians and Ephesians and First John. Like there's so many verses in the New Testament from Jesus and Paul that affirm this idea that we are all connected to God and to one another, right? Well, there's a powerful verse where Jesus says in the Gospel of John, he goes, in that day you will realize I am in the Father is in me, and I am in you. And it's meant to be this sort of like mind-blowing thing of like draw a picture of that for me. What does that look, what does that look like? Like it breaks physics. It breaks, how can Jesus be in the Father and the Father's in him, but he's in us? Well, that means the Father's in us too. And so, Jesus says, abide in me and I will abide in you. Like there's this connection, there's no separation, right? All these verses that affirm that nothing can ever separate you from the love of God, not angels or demons, not the future, not the past, not so time itself, death. It says even death can't separate you from the love of God. On and on and on. I'll say for myself, when I first started to try to imagine this and make sense of this, like, okay, I'm connected to God, and I would still think of it this way. I'm connected to God in this amazing way. And Melissa, you are too. And so is everybody else. But I still mentally pictured, God in the middle and a bunch of little tiny little dots, individual people, all sort of connected to God, like maybe like a flower or something, right? And then realizing that no, that's still coming from a separation mentality. I'm still acting as if my incredible connection and oneness with God is separate from yours. Like, if I am truly one with God in this incredible, amazing way, by the way, that's what Jesus says too. Jesus prays, again in the Gospel of John, he prays that we, all of us, would be one in the same way that he is one with the Father. That's not, there's no separation there, right? So it's impossible for me to be connected to God in this amazing way without me being connected to you and everybody else in the same way. And so anyway, the more I'm meditating on that and learning how to shift my thinking this way, it's leading me away from all those ways of thinking about God and about myself and others in this term of separation, and more in this idea of being connected to everyone else. And I think this is one of the things that Jesus is trying to get us to understand in the Gospels too, right? When he says, "Whatever you've done for the least of these, you've done it to me," whether it was good or bad, right? So if humanity can really grasp these truths, this kind of shocking, amazing, mind-blowing truth that both Jesus and Paul and Black Elk and Socrates and all these other people have been saying for centuries, and now quantum science is coming up and saying, oh, by the way, yeah, that seems to be true, that we're all connected to one another in this incredible way, that the universe is a great consciousness, and then we're all connected to the same consciousness. Like, if we can really grasp this, like it brings an end to war. How can I go to war? How can I kill another person? That's me. I'm killing myself if I do that, right? How can we tolerate poverty? Because that person who's hungry, that's me. I'm connected to them, right? So once we start seeing this incredible level of connection between ourselves and God and everybody else, then again, there is no us and them, there's just us, right? And then that brings us to this beautiful level of realization that we need one another, right? I think it's such a beautiful message, and it gives me I'm so excited about it because it's something that I do see as coming from a Christian background. It's there, that all those ideas are right there, but then seeing it reflected in other religions, other philosophies, and now by scientific discoveries, I'm hoping, very hopeful, that humanity is eventually going to get it. Like, it's coming at us from all angles now. Hopefully it becomes something that we no longer deny and we can actually embrace in a way that becomes something that changes us and changes the world.
I was actually just going to quote something from your book here, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, sure.
You said, who you are should be a question of what you value, not what you believe. And that was said by Adam Grant.
Yes.
And I just thought that was so profound. If we could get past grouping ourselves together and excluding people by what we believe, how the world would change.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially if we just confess that we really don't know anything. Like the things we think we believe, we're just all guessing and we don't know. And so, yeah, it should be like, well, there's another quote in the book. Richard Rohr says, God doesn't fit into our boxes, so we shouldn't waste so much time arguing about our boxes. And to me, that's a summary of most theology, most religions. And that's all we're doing. All the debates, all the arguing, all the division, we're right and you're wrong. You're a heretic. You're a false teacher. You're an apostate. All of that way of behaving and thinking, it boils down to just pretending we've got God in our little box, and arguing about whose box is the right box. Like, it's just ridiculous. It's really silly.
And on that note, we discussed in the beginning how your book can appeal both to the deconstructing Christian audience and the New Age audience. So being in between those two groups, what would you say to each side? Because they tend to go at it a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess mainly because my sort of tribe that I was raised in and grew up in and, kind of came from, and was shaped by a lot was the sort of evangelical Christian tribe way of thinking. Yeah, I can say, I think I can speak to them again because I understand them so much more. Again, what I'm doing, that's why in the book, there's so much scripture, to be honest. Like one of the criticisms I had, I told you before I hit record that, before you hit record, that one of the people I sent the book to was another progressive Christian author. And he told me not only that he couldn't endorse it, but he said, don't publish it. Like this is dangerous, and you don't want to lead people astray and all this kind of stuff. And so I went back. I was like, well, am I doing that? I don't know. I don't want to, but I don't want to do that. So I went back and looked at my book again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much scripture in this book. Like I'm not saying anything that is not fully supported in many places by the New Testament scriptures, again, by what Jesus and Paul and others are saying in the New Testament. So I guess to those people, I would say, because typically they're really nervous by the conversation you and I are having, oh, this sounds dangerous, this is New Age, this is false teaching, whatever. No, trust me, read the book. It's just full of references. You can go look up yourself and see for yourself that these are, I would say, these are Christian ideas. Okay. They're not unchristian ideas, at least, put it that way. And for the New Age person, I would say, I wouldn't be afraid of the verses of scripture, because in addition to all the scripture that I'm quoting, which is really just validating what most of the New Age people believe anyway, if nothing else, it can help you in arguments with Christians. Because when they say to you, hey, New Age person, what you believe is something, that's not right. This isn't biblical or whatever. You can say, oh yeah, it is. Look at this right here. Because it is. But at the same time, I would encourage the New Age person, celebrate the fact, because I'm learning to do this myself, celebrate the fact that the truths that you are embracing, the things that you are discovering in your own journey about connection, about oneness, and these kinds of things, that they are validated in so many other places, including, yes, Jesus, including Paul, including these other things. Like, so don't reject those things. I understand that a lot of times Christians themselves can be difficult to deal with, and I totally understand that. But that's no reason to reject the really profound and beautiful truths that you're going to see reflected in all of these different places. And it makes me really excited when I see all that. When I read it from Rumi, or like I said, or Black Elk, or Alan Watts, or Buddhism, or all these different places, and it's the same truth, it's the same profound realization. I would hope that no matter how you classify yourself, Christian, New Age, or whatever, that would excite you. You know what I mean? That would be interesting to you, and to be like, wow. I hope what it does is that I would like to see us break out of our boxes, whatever your box is, New Age, Christian, whatever box you're in, and not be so quick to label yourself, because I think when you do that, you're letting the cement harden. You've decided, I've got it figured out. This is it. Or I would just say, I'm not, I get like the quote you read from the book, like, I am not my beliefs. My beliefs don't define who I am. I just am who I am, and my beliefs change. That's been my experience anyway. I use a quote in the book about how, from the Christian standpoint, it's like, no matter how many times my views change, I'm always right. And I think we can behave that way. We can get caught in that trap of, we do change our minds, but we convince ourselves that every time we change our minds, we're right. We were right before, but then we changed our mind, we're right again. We change our minds, like, oh, we're still right. But what I'm saying in my book is, let's turn that around and say, I think this is just more honest. We've been wrong before, and we're wrong about some things now, and we're going to be wrong in the future. It's not about being right or wrong. Let go of this being right or wrong. Let go of defining yourself by how right you are and how wrong other people are. And I think the more you can do that and really, truly embrace the mystery, you open yourself up to this joy and wonder that you're going to discover in so many other places outside of your own little camp, your own little box,
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And I think I just want to close out by reading one more quote from your book, which I just thought was so beautiful. You said, "The truth and the world around us is more wondrous, strange, and perplexing than we can possibly imagine. Trees communicate, memories fluctuate, reality itself might be something we hallucinate," which are all things that you touch on in the book.
Yes.
How can anyone possibly say they know almost anything is true, especially when it comes to a being so magnificent, marvelous, complex, and unimaginably vast as what we imagine when we talk about an eternal God?
Hmm. Yeah, that's what it's all about to me. And it's about, this has been the joy for me of giving myself permission to embrace the mystery, to let go of my need to find my identity and being right about it, having all the answers, because I don't, and no one does. And when you can do that, again, this has just been my experience, that by letting go of all of that and truly embracing, well, as I say, the beautiful uncertainty of everything, it it just has expanded my capacity for awe and wonder and joy. And by the way, too, there's also lots of studies I talk about in the book that have been done about how the more we move in this direction, the more we're able to embrace wonder and awe and these kinds of things. There are these things physiologically that happen in our bodies and our brains, right? It reduces stress, and anxiety. It reduces your tendency towards mental illness. It improves your health. Like, it rewires your brain. Like, there's all these amazing things that happen the more we can do these things. And so it just makes sense on many, many levels, not just theologically, but I think you could even make a case it's good for your mental, emotional, and spiritual health to move in this direction. And I've loved it. I'm excited about what the future is going to hold. And the truth is, I don't know what it's going to be. This is what's really cool. For the first time in my life, I have no idea what my next book's going to be about. I have no idea what I'm going to do next. And I love that. I can't wait to discover it from, down the road. Like, wow, what's the next thing that I'm going to do? And what's the next thing I'm going to discover and be excited about that I want to share with the world? And so, yeah, it's just a wonderful place to be in. And I would invite everybody to join me. The water's fine.
Well, whatever you do, it's going to be amazing. So, would
Thanks.
you like to talk about where people can find you, where they can get a copy of your book, and any other projects you have going on?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so the book is on Amazon. It's on Kindle and print at the moment. The audiobook is in process. It should be ready in about another month. In August, I'm going to be doing a 3-week online course going through the book, Sola Mysterium, because there's so much additional material that I wasn't able to put into the book. And so I'm really excited to be able to go through this with a group of people where we're going to take one chapter at a time, and we're going to just do a deep dive into that chapter, into the ideas in that book. There's so much in this book. I mean, I talk about idea space, I talk about psychology, I talk about botany, I talk about astronomy. Like, there's just so much stuff. Like, I couldn't possibly, fit it all in the book. And so anyway, that course starts in August. It's $19.99. There'll be information about that if you go to my blog, keithgiles.com. If you want to take that journey with us, that'll be a lot of fun. And I am, as I said, right now, I'm doing a series on the Gospel of Thomas. It's a blog series. So every week, it's called The Inner Circle. And every week I publish an article where we look at one of the sayings of Jesus from the Gospel of Thomas, kind of break that down. I'm having a blast doing that. And that's on, you can go to find out also at keithgiles.com. And yeah, so in addition to that, I do a podcast called Second Cup with Keith. And of course, I also co-host Heretic Happy Hour with some friends of mine, and another one called Apostates Anonymous with Matthew DeStefano, which is a lot of fun. And so, yeah, and I'm happy to interact with anybody on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Look me up, and we can connect.
Wonderful. You've got so much going on, and I'll have all the links in the description. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I know you're writing books, you're doing podcasts and your blog, and you're just doing so much good in the world. So thank you.
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you for what you're doing too. I'm really excited about getting a chance to meet all these amazing people that you get to talk to on your show.
Thank you so much, Keith. This has been wonderful.
Yeah, it has. Thank you so much, Melissa.